the Southeast Asian islands lies Indonesia, home to 250 million people. It puts Indonesia at the fourth most populated nation in the world. It's also home to hundreds of ethnic and linguistic groups. Most people live in populated areas and experience widespread poverty. At the same time, Indonesia is home to the second most biodiverse land in the whole world and is also home to the orangutan. Come join our team as we explore the cassava crop of Indonesia. Originally from South America, cassava is utilized for its carbohydrate-rich tuber. We're going to explore deeper the productivity and the significance of this crop for Indonesia and the world.
Badi baik ko ito manipa-nipa ito Malatung malungu ko day nang nadiawot Asa saut sa kami jala sonang daoto.
When it comes to the geography of Indonesia, it varies. Indonesia is made up of over 17,000 separate islands, so most of the geography is coastal lowlands. However, in some of the larger islands, such as Java, there are huge interior mountains. These mountains are mainly volcanic. For example, at any given time, Java can have around 50 active volcanoes. The climate of Indonesia is hot and humid, something you would expect from a tropical area. It does not vary in temperature, nor so much in season. For example, Indonesia's seasons consist of a wet and a dry season. The winter and the summer do not have any extremes. This is a very even climate, which is perfect for the cultivation and growth of cassava.
Cassava is a crop that's relied on as a staple because it can thrive in marginal soils and soils with limited rainfall. Thriving in subtropical and tropical regions is a crop that thrives where other crops do not. Cassava is grown by taking 5 to 10 inch pieces of the stem and putting them into mounds either horizontally to retain moisture in places where it doesn't get a lot of rain, or putting it vertically in places where it gets ample rainfall per year. Although cassava will grow on marginal soils, it will benefit from getting mineral or animal manure fertilizers. Irrigation is mostly all rainfall in Indonesia, and it really is relied on to establish the plant at the beginning of the season. Generally, pest-resistant and high-yielding varieties of cassava are used in production, though recent years have seen decimation of crops by the cassava mealybug, with scientists now putting a lot of hope into parasitic wasps to mitigate the vector control. Harvest of cassava is done around 8 months for eating cassava, and around 18 to 20 months for maximum starch production. Still manually harvested, the cassava is pulled up by the bottom of the stem. It's quickly processed because within a few days it will spoil.
Cassava production in Asia is projected to grow at an annual rate of 1.95% from now to 2020. While in Indonesia, during the past 10 years, increased at an annual rate of just 0.8%. The average cassava yield is about 12.2 tons per hectare, and the average production costs $414 per hectare, while the average gross income is just $505, and the net income is just $91.
Badi baik ko ito manipa-nipa ito Malatung malungu ko day nang dadiawot Asa saut sa kami jala sonang dota.
In 2011, modified cassava became common, and some instant noodle producers have used it silently, especially low-end instant noodles, as a part substitute of pricey flour. Cassava can be cooked in many ways. The soft boiled root has a delicate flavor and can replace boiled potatoes in many uses, as a side for meat, or it can be made into purees, dumplings, stews, or gravies. Deep fried, after boiling and steaming, it can replace fried potatoes, bringing distinctive flavors. Cassava is exported in three forms: as a human food, as a starch, and as an animal feed ingredient. Similar to domestic markets, price and quality competition exists in starch and animal feed export markets. There is less competition in the human feed export.
Cassava is one of the most important crops to developing countries. The reason for this is because of the high amount of calories that are in the cassava tuber and that are consumed by these populations in these countries. Cassava production has been increasing rapidly during the last 30 years. In fact, it's almost doubled. Some reasons for this are modifications that have been made to the cassava which allow for more reliable and larger yields. The reason I'm here is to answer the question of whether cassava is being produced sustainably, and right now it's not. A lack of soil and erosion controls have led to degrading soil and landslides, since cassava does not act as a holder of soil, and it also takes nutrients out of the soil which must be replaced by fertilizer. According to the Center of Tropical Agriculture, cassava production can be sustainable in Indonesia if the farmers are willing to put the inputs and controls that are necessary to preserve the soil for future generations.
Cassava is the third most important crop in Indonesia. It is widely used and eaten during times of hardship. Cassava is also seen as inferior to rice. One of the major limitations of cassava production is post-harvest physiological deterioration, or PPD. PPD can render the fruit unpalatable and unmarketable within 24 to 72 hours, depending on the genotype and the environmental condition of the crop. PPD can also be characterized as the blue and black streaking of the vascular tissues. This forces farmers to sell fresh cassava or to process the cassava rapidly after harvest. If this process is not done fast enough, this leads to the reduction of the price. Cassava production is often blamed for soil degradation. This is because the farmers that do grow cassava are low income, who often do not place fertilizer into the crop. This then makes the crop use the fertilization of the soil, which then causes soil degradation.
Ile ile daw nang nagajang do dalani dainan dalan natu si dipuan tunggajang doinan sai dapotan damangi dapotakan ngoluan asara pamitok tong ramate di si hadawan jala sonang rohaki unang bemar gangguan.